Hi, friends. Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm your host, Josh Horton. Today, I'm talking with Amy Hood, designer, co-founder of Hoodzpah, and one of my favorite people when it comes to mixing craft, conviction, and a sense of humor. Amy grew up in the rural South, did time on a Kentucky farm, and now runs a studio in Southern California. We talk about how that upbringing shaped her work ethic, her love for underdogs, and the way that she sees the Heartland design scene, the East Coast agency world, and Silicon Valley as totally different countries inside our industry. We get into what happens when conversion starts to outrun conviction, from Nike's recent stumbles to a startup culture's obsession with speed, scale, and A&B testing. Amy talks about the tension between data and gut and why some of the best brands still bet on risk and weird ideas, and how things like Red Bull events, Liquid Death campaigns, and house shows from legacy bands create the kind of imprint you can't measure in a dashboard. We also get honest about the hard stuff, the low of a slow year, projects that never see the light of day, midlife doubt, AI and capitalism eating at creative work, and what it feels like to wonder if you've got any good ideas left. And through all of it, we keep coming back to community, Slack channels, conferences, and the simple act of not going through this alone. If you're a designer, studio owner, or mid-career creative who feels the industry is shifting under your feet, or you've questioned whether your craft still matters in a world of algorithms and AI, this episode's for you. Let's jump in. I know some of you guys may know a little bit of Amy and her sister's backstory. Jen, they're in California right now, somewhere on the beach, always on the beach, perpetually on the beach.
Perpetually, whenever we can.
But they're from Kentucky. So my story is I was in Memphis forever. And then I eventually fled the deep South to go to Seattle. And I think you and I know kind of some of that story, but I would love to know kind of what was the catalyst for that move for you guys. And I know some of it too, like y'all working with the paper and all that, but I would love to just know kind of what y'all were feeling there in Kentucky before you made the big move.
It was so many things. It was a lot of things. And we were kind of young. My dad's always lived in California. So when my parents got divorced, we were in California. And then we moved to Kentucky. Well, we moved around a lot. And then we ended up in Kentucky finally after Wisconsin and New York and some other things. And my grandma lives there. So my mom grew up there. And when we went anywhere, they'd be like, Susie, how are you? And it was like somebody she went to high school with, And I honestly don't. It's not like she hated it. I think she just she was so proud to have gotten out. I think that was a really big thing for her. So I think being back and it's literally the plot line for Hope Floats kind of. It's divorcee goes back to hometown, lives with her mother, kind of thing. But
interesting.
But yeah, I loved Kentucky. I still say I'm from there, even though now with the span of my life, that time keeps getting shorter and shorter. And yet it was so pivotal. And I feel so kindred to the Southern spirit. I don't know why. It's just I was raised all by women. And even though we lived on a farm, it was kind of if you wanted to do something, it was just do it. Don't talk about it, just do it. Right. And they were, they expected a lot. We all had chores. My friends would come over and my mom would wake us up Saturday morning and be like, all right, everyone get to the farm, everyone get to the barn and clean up the stalls or do this or do that. And my friends would be like, I got to call my mom. I think I have to go home. They hated it. So funny. But I think that work spirit of Southerners is it's just kind of a little bit ingrained. Is it still like that? I wonder. Because you're still in Memphis. So,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think for the most part, but I mean, the generation, I mean, I just think of my kids, I don't ask them to do anything.
And you're out there cutting the lawn, getting your skin fried.
That's right. I have a 14-year-old that could be doing this.
100%.
And
Josh, what are you doing?
I know he's literally playing Fortnite with friends. It's kind of weird.
Hilarious.
Video games has become his social activity because we live, it was maybe like this. Or, I mean, y'all sounds like y'all lived on a farm, but when I grew up, I lived in a neighborhood and the neighborhood was on the outskirts of the city. It was still in the city, but it was on the very edge. And I had 7 friends inside that neighborhood, kind of like the Goonies. And we did everything together all the time. And we never had to say where we were going. It was just hey, I'm going out. And nowadays, I mean, I think about that a lot because it's just not like that. If Jude wants to go hang out with his friends, they're like, most of them are halfway across the town this way or that way, because he goes to a school where people basically have to opt in for and things like that. And so they just have that loss of connection. And that's where he spends a lot of time playing video games and socializing. You can hear it, them chatting back and forth and going off on each other. It's hilarious.
So funny.
But it's so different. But I think the biggest thing about the Southern mentality that I love versus like, say, like Hollywood, maybe even Nashville, is the hospitality. Like, it's a little fake,
yes.
but people are really nice, and really personable and like want to connect with you, versus when I go to like Nashville or LA, and this is not a sweeping judgment or, stereotype of everyone.
No, make the judgment.
But no. But everyone's working, I think, so hard and trying so hard to make it in those cities that they just lose some of that connection. I mean, maybe that's I don't know if you ever saw Crash, the movie, long time ago.
No, I don't think I did.
The whole, I think they even state this in the movie, but the whole, like, it was really amazing. Actually, it was a drama back when like 21 Grams came out.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah, it was huge.
One for stuff.
But the whole thing was like, Los Angeles was such a big town, so much going on, that they would have to have this drama to like crash into each other. That physical connection had to happen for everyone to realize that it was real. Now, I could be way off on that, but that's one of the things that was like what I pulled from that. But anyway, I love the South. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with it as well. It's not very progressive. We're in the deep South. Like, Nashville's a little bit more progressive, but we're in the deep South, which is like, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Birmingham.
It's weird though, because Memphis has such history with like MLK and all that sort of thing. Like, it does feel progressive in a way though, because like whenever I visit, and maybe it's just like the creative community specifically, but I've always had like this sense of like, there's an interesting vibe in Memphis that feels kind of outside of the South, even though it's so also quintessentially Southern.
Yeah, I think in the same way that like Nashville, the denser parts of the state seem to be more progressive. So Nashville and Memphis in particular, even Chattanooga, they tend to be more progressive just from the makeup of those areas. But yeah, if you were to go to like Jackson, Mississippi, or even like Oxford, Mississippi, like that's like some deep South stuff.
For
big
sure.
Twangs, in the language. But yeah, I mean, I'm from Memphis, born and raised here, and I've been here. I'm going to be here for the foreseeable future. And I mean, these days, as you know, you can kind of work from everywhere. So when I went to Seattle, I worked at Tooth and Nail for a year, and like all I did was
which is iconic, by the way.
There,
that's so iconic.
Yeah,
Tooth and Nail
I didn't
was
know
like
that.
Raised
so I know, and I was one of those kids that like, I think Tooth and Nail music was too bad for the church that I grew up in.
Was it
like,
really?
There was people that like, yes. I grew up Southern Baptist, and so like they didn't even. There was like approved within Christian music. There was like approved bands basically that you could listen to within there. And then even like some of the cool, like I remember this so vividly. My dad one time sat me down because I think I was listening to like Striper or something. And my dad sat me down and he had this document, this like a photocopied document that was, photocopied 100 times. So you could barely make out the pictures. And it was the guy from Petra, like the lead singer from Petra, throwing like the devil horns.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this guy was just saying like rock and roll or whatever. And just like out of nowhere was throwing the devil horns. Well, my dad basically took that to mean that, look, you don't ever listen to Petra anymore. That's not a thing.
He was in that satanic panic mindset of leftover from like the 80s, 90s.
But yeah, my dad was way caught up in that. And so, so I went to Tooth and Nail and I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not just Christian music. This is great music. And it was like,
I still listen to Further Seems Forever on the regular. Further Seems Forever was a staple for me. I've seen them and Chris Carrabba probably more live because it was like those formative years where you go to shows a lot, and I was so obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Oh
funny.
yeah.
But so that was your first design job,
I
was
saw
tooth and
the
nail?
no, my first design job was at Ardent Records, which was another Christian record label.
Oh, that I've
And
never even heard of that one.
yeah, and yeah, it wasn't remarkable. I think it had like trying to think of our bands. We had Todd Agnew, Skillet, which Skillet is like a
Skillet.
huge phenom right now.
Wait,
And
now
I
was
hired
Skillet?
Dawn.
Okay,
Go
right.
ahead.
Yes, the other band from, because there was like Demon Slayer. Is that right?
No, that's
Was the
Demon
other
Hunter.
Demon Hunter?
That's Dawn and Ryan of Invisible Creature fame. They actually were in that band. And
Right,
Ryan Clark is still in Demon Hunter right now to this day.
right.
And they
Which is
just put out a
incredible.
record it's absolutely incredible.
I love that.
That band is so amazing. But Skillet was on the record label that I was in. I hired Dawn to do a cover and then an album layout. Back then we just were hiring people to do covers, and we'd have the in-house team do the rest of the package.
Oh, that's funny.
And it was just backwards. It's because they didn't want to spend any money. And
Right.
And I convinced my boss to let Dawn do like the lyrics and stuff like that. And so anyway, that's how I connected with them. And I was like, I wasn't learning anything at Ardent in Memphis. And so I moved up there. That's the genesis of that part of the story.
That's interesting. I don't think people realize too. It's like, there's so many connections from like alternative Christian music to graphic design,
Yes.
like Brandon Reich.
Oh,
There's so
man.
many more that I can't even think of right now. But I mean, I listened to Dead Poetic before I even met Brandon as a designer. And that was like, my mind was blown when he told me. But yeah, so it's like failed musicians become graphic designers, number one. And then,
Yep.
I mean, there's
It's
like
an
a couple
easy
of,
turn.
yeah. So it is really funny how much of that is present in the graphic design circles. Not so much like Silicon Valley, but definitely like the kind of creative stuff like Heartland
Yes.
graphic design scene.
Yep.
I feel like there's three
Midwest.
scenes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Silicon Valley, East Coast New York, which is like completely different. It's like ad agency. Like I actually don't know that community very well at all. And then there's like the Heartland, like, yeah, Midwest kind of vibe.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I feel like I try to articulate those differences as well. And if you're able to, I'd like to spend a moment just trying to articulate like that. So I have a certain I come from a primarily like a print background, right? That's what I started doing. And then that got into print and web or digital. But for the most part, and I did a startup back in the day, which is not remarkable, but I've done a lot of little things here and there. But when I'm putting together the conference or Creative Works, East or West or whatever these days, they're like startup folks or people from San Francisco really don't attach themselves to it, but then there's Figma, which has got like, thousands of people to it. And it's hugely influential and empowering to that community. In your mind, just kind of living over there, what is the difference between, and do you like Midwest graphic design? Is that the way to kind of encapsulate that? I feel like it's brand design and then startup design. That's kind of the way that I put it together. Is that right?
I've been trying to define it too, because like I can tell there are clear differentiators. Like so far, those are the three camps that I can like define, because every now and again, like you said, there's different conferences that are definitely like steeped in the different groups. Like Brand New Conference, I met so many different people that were more in the LA and New York like agency scene that were like in-house players. And in those conferences, I feel like the in-house creative directors are like very much more the heroes, like the lauded figures. Whereas like in the Midwest design scene, it's usually like freelance designers that have like made a name for themselves as like an individual that are the heroes. So like the Draplins, the, like the people like that, even like me and Jen, like that's predominantly the kind of conferences we were talking at, was like small studios who are scrappy and doing cool work. And then at the like Brand New Conference or like, like maybe like, the AD and or what's it called? The Art Directors Club, or like the Type Directors Club, like that kind of stuff. I remember when I started figuring out those kind of things, I'm like, I've never even heard of this. I've never heard of any of these people on the board. Where have I been living? Like, what's going on? There's this whole other world of people that I like not familiar with. I think that really shocked me. And I was like, I gotta like make sure like I'm up to date on the different scenes, you know? So I do think it's interesting making sure like you can be in such a bubble and be like, oh, nobody's doing that. And it's like, oh no, there's this whole other scene that's like absolutely really into that, you know? So I try to now like get a broad input.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing to know is like that, you know, what's going on, you know, in ad world or agency world or whatever, it's not wrong. It's just different. You know, it's like different people kind of gravitate towards that versus kind of the scrappy thing. And I think I'm always rooting for like the underdog or the you know, the
and that's so stubborn of you. That's why we like that. We're so Southern in that way. Whereas like the, you know, those like, you know, the AD club and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of like, it's very much like premier prestige brands and like, and really like that kind of thing. It's like big, you know, big rebrands, big, just like big scopes, like really seeing if somebody can pull off something holistically. So I do think it's really about the audiences, which is like totally the different design scenes. It's like the audiences in LA and New York, it's huge markets, huge brand names. It's very much like you need a huge team to do those kinds of projects usually. So it's like, it's been very rare that like smaller teams even get to be in those discussions unless you're kind of in the area, which I feel like me and Jen kind of like benefited from. I didn't used to think that it mattered where you lived, but it really does. Like if you say I'm in LA, they're like, okay, they understand the vibe here because it's completely different world from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Even if you don't connect, do you like do coffee or lunch or whatever? Or
we used to all the time. Oh, we were going up to LA. We reached out to like, we were so social. I would just follow people on Instagram that I really admired and just start like commenting on things. And we would just like have a good time. And then it would be like, hey, let's meet up. I'm going to be in LA. And anytime I was going somewhere, I would just find like 5 different people that I admired in that area and be like, hey, let's get coffee. Or like when I would go to Austin, I would like plan big meetups for like, you know, like El Dick and Drew Lakin, and I'd invite Simon Walker. He never came, but like, you know, just inviting that whole Austin crew, Alana Louise, and just like get the whole gang together and be like, we should meet in person. And like, they hang out all the time together, but it was just like, you know, really trying to like get roots in different areas and just like compare notes, because I think I just realized at a certain point, like, wow, my world has been very small, and I'm one of those people who have like really strong opinions. And even if I know nothing about, you know, I don't have a very broad experience. So I think I was just like, wow, there's a lot I don't know that I've been making broad sweeping judgments on. And I think I have a lot to learn. And then you bring Silicon Valley into that, then it's a completely different world. Then it's like crypto.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So Drew Wilson, he's in San Diego, but he's in that startup world and somehow managed to do it even from San Diego. Because I feel like a lot of people really want you to be in the area, Silicon Valley, back in the day. But he said something the other day. He was like, success to regular people versus success in Silicon Valley in tech is like it's so different. Like success in tech is like selling your company for like millions and millions and millions, like billions even. Like it's just it's such a different level. And like he sold his company in his 30s. He has a big, gorgeous house. He has like Teslas and this and that. Like he's doing extremely well, but he's still like, I'm not, you know, in the tech terms, like I'm just like barely scraping the surface. So I think experiencing that level of like just money and like investment and the size of teams and people getting investments of like, we're just going to scale this insanely fast was like another whole like eye-opening thing. So when we spoke at ValioCon and we got to meet that world, we met this guy named Josh Sortino, who's still a really good friend of ours. And he brought us on board to work on a bunch of projects with him. And like the way you learn in that scenario is also completely amazing. And you can take things from there, and you can also see things that are like super toxic that you don't want to do. But I think like getting to play in all those different areas, if you can in your life, like if you have the means to like take a job in a different city, in a different region, if you're in the South, try the West Coast, try the East Coast. Like those kind of things are so invaluable. You just don't know what you don't know, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's one of the things right now I feel like, and a lot of my friends that were living in Memphis have moved away, but if you're going to stick it out here in Memphis, like it's important and imperative, frankly, for you to find people outside of the city, because at a certain level, in a small town, you're all kind of competing for the same businesses. and the same work. And what you don't realize because of the internet, like the world is a lot bigger than you think. And so I think that's really important and some really wild lessons there too. What, before we get off of this subject, startup culture. So, I mean, it's very different. I have friends here that do a startup thing called Start Co. And for a long time, like I've worked and consulted and just like, just had beers with these folks just to talk really about what they're about and how they do things. And like, again, it's like fast as you can, do something, get something out, throw it out, see what happens. And then like iterate. What are your biggest takeaways with that? Because I feel like that culture in particular is in some ways antithetical to the way that I approach at least creative work or taking my time to do something.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
So
because
different.
I feel like,
yeah, it's so different. It's, Jen does most of our client work in that space because she does a lot of like the UI UX web work that we do at Hoodzpah. Yep. And I don't even touch it. I'm so bad at it. Like I tried and it's definitely not my forte at all, but I'm really great at the logo phase and kind of establishing those initial, brand markers. So logo, type, color, I'll usually dig into those elements and illustration. So Jen does most of that, but it's so interesting. It's like, if they're doing a rebrand, you can stick to the guiding principles that we usually use with all of our clients, which is like taking time for discovery to really like align on the goals in like a broader sense than just like conversion. But it is really tough sometimes when you work in tech because conversion is so important and sometimes at the detriment to the brand overall. And I think everyone recently with brands like Nike are seeing how it really is a balance. Like Nike went full in on conversion recently and their brand really suffered and their stock has been dropping. And when you go outside and you look now, it's like all the kids are wearing like other stuff. It's like Adidas, it's
New Balance is eating their lunch. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like for older people, it's like Hoka's, it's like all these other things. And it's like they took their brand out of stores because they can make more money just selling direct to consumer on their site. But it's like, yeah, but then the recognition and the just reminding people that like we're this huge brand that's here and that matters and that is culturally relevant was lost. So it is really, and those are the things that you can't really, sure, you could say like this might have an impact, but you can't really predict how much of an impact sometimes. And I think those kind of things are so fascinating. And it's such a great thing for people like me and brand to be able to point to and be like, see how important it is to really invest in brand, which is really hard to track ROI on, but it's still incredibly important, And it's like when you work with these tech people, they're like, well, we need conversion and we need to make sure that this, increases sales. And sometimes you'll get people who still kind of think that way. I feel like that's not as much the case nowadays because people are so smart about brand now. I feel like everyone kind of has a pretty good knowledge of brand and how it's important on a qualitative level, not necessarily like a quantitative level, but you still do get those people who like want to like A/B test which logo to choose, or something like that, where you're like, no, we just have to have like a really strong conviction about this. And that has to show through and people will feel that and they may not like it, but it'll still get them talking. And at least we have a really unique voice and a really unique point of view. And that's fascinating. It's kind of like, it's like just as good as someone loving you as someone hating you. It's like Kobe was so divisive and it's like people hated him, but they loved to hate him. And that's kind of like, that means his name was always at the top of the list as opposed to somebody like maybe like, Tim Duncan, who was very quiet and kind of subdued. And people always like make fun of the Spurs dynasty because it was so mellow, and it was so like frictionless. So I do think the older
is Greg Popovich still the coach there?
I think he just retired this year, which is insane.
Okay.
Like he spans like
I try to tell
decades.
I try to tell Jude all the time about how amazing the Spurs have been. Tony,
Parker.
Tim
Duncan.
So many. Yeah.
Manu
so
Ginobili.
many people played for them. Yeah. And just the way that Greg, like everyone was so put together and so disciplined and, versus some of the scrappier kind of looser ball teams like the Grizzlies or whatever. But I just love their basketball for sure.
It is. It's interesting. I love looking at brand through a pop culture lens because it's easier to kind of, when you think about like brand in terms of like actual like companies or whatever, where it's like more obvious, like there's a product or something like that or a service. Sometimes it can be like really hard to define things. But when you think about it in terms of like movies or actors or sports teams, like I feel like it's really easy to define what works and like what generates conversation and what generates excitement and things like that. So like people like Tyrese Halliburton right now, who's like such a troll, and he plays for the Indiana Pacers. And it's like everyone's being like,
I've been watching those games.
Oh, it's amazing. And everyone's like, oh, it's a secondary market. No one gives a shit. No one's going to go to the finals. And it's like, and this guy is like proving them all wrong by just being someone that people love to hate or love to love.
Yep.
And I find that really interesting. And the older I get, the less worried I am about everyone loving a rebrand. And the more I'm trying to encourage like our clients to be like, how do we have a unique perspective to where our fans are loyal and people want to claim it, or they want to be like, no, I don't like that actually. You know, it's like we have like very strong, strong convictions either way in our audience.
Yeah.
And it's like that really is where you get loyal fans. So it's like, I think people were so afraid to be, like frank for a while because it just the way the media was and people canceling and that sort of thing. But it's like, no, you still have to have, it's like, don't say anything like rude or hurtful, but it's like, you still have to have an opinion, and that's okay if not everyone agrees with it. It's like, there's a way to have an opinion and not be like completely rude to somebody else or whatever, but it's like, it's interesting to have a unique perspective.
Yeah. And I feel like kind of in the same vein too, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I was talking to Teresa Fitzgerald just to make sure that people understand this is bigger than just where I'm at locally. But Teresa Fitzgerald worked at Sesame Street. She was a creative director there for the longest time. And even at places like Sesame Street, their bosses and their boards and their, officers are trying to make sure that the data basically drives creative. And at a certain point, I mean, I think that those things working well together is really fantastic, but it's when, creativity or risk or conviction or whatever it is takes a back seat that those things start to suffer. I mean, you were kind of alluding to it with Nike, I guess. And there's other reasons there's other examples, but I don't know. I tweeted this out the other day that no one pays attention to this stuff, or I put it out on Threads, but it's like, I never signed up to be a marketing professional in this role like that. I had nothing to do with that. And it's not to say that marketing professionals are wrong, and that's not something that should be embraced, but like, I feel like there's something different about building a brand and really like doubling down on authenticity versus trying to be more things to more people so that you can sell more things. And
because
I don't know if that's making sense, but like,
totally.
man, I get so I don't know. There's a lot of people, I will say, I'll bring this home to Memphis. There's a lot of people in the business community that think that they're so much more important than the creatives that they employ even. And the ones that are notable and are known outside of Memphis are the ones that are creative first, that are like, pretty useful, they're doing work for people outside of Memphis, and they're valued by people outside of Memphis because they're creative first. They still employ marketing. They still employ strategy and data and all those things. But it's yeah. So anyway, I'd love it if you could kind of speak to that in a way that could help me honestly better articulate that, because I feel like I've just seen the business community, at least here in Memphis, try to keep creatives at bay so that they don't have to pay them more or give them a better office, and then that the people in the business community can kind of like tout their importance. And that, in honestly, it's like a deep South, old South type of thing. It's like the people with money are the most important ones, and the people that don't have money don't have that clout. So anyway, I'd love to know kind of your thoughts on that.
That's so interesting. I follow a lot of marketing newsletters because I want to understand it better, and I want to be like a good collaborator. Like, marketing is essential for something to succeed. And like the brands who do it well balance marketing and like ROI and like conversion and creative, right? It's like it's like one for you, one for me. And it's like one that invests in brand and one that one that invests in like just pure conversion. Like we just need to make sure that, we're selling what we need to keep this train rolling. And it's like, I never want to like down talk marketing, because I think the more I work with like larger companies, the more I realize just how important that is, and how, it's like, you don't ever want there to be a disconnect between like marketing and creative too much, because then things go wrong for a completely different reason. So it's like, it's one of those things where I think if we as creatives, like, I love that you're like trying to figure out marketing more, because I do think when we've worked with brands where we do understand what they're trying to do and we can like verbalize like, hey, I get it. You're trying to sell this, or you're trying to, like, at the end of the day, we need to move items or whatever it is. We need to get signups. We need to get users to this product, whatever that is. It's like being able to make sure they know, like, I know the end goal, but also we need to make sure that we're being aspirational. And that's what people remember, is like something that's a little bit more aspirational, instead of just like teaching them that like if they wait long enough, they'll get 30% off coupon and they'll just do that. You know what I mean? It's like, do you want to be the person that's just always running sales and discounts? Or do you want to create something where people literally want to be involved? Kind of like, have you seen the All American Rejects reunion thing where they're doing house shows all over America, and like they're getting like thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming to these free house shows?
No, but Reliant K, going back to my kind of like Christian music roots, Reliant K did that like in Nashville like last week, and it was amazing. It was like, and everyone was sweating. It was amazing.
They got that idea from All American Rejects, because they've been doing it, and they basically just saying like, hey, do you want us to come play your house show? Like, send us an email. Like, as simple as amazing. like fan, call me, let me know if we have time, we'll like do it. And if you can like get enough people, or like there's enough room, and they're just showing up and they're having this huge renaissance. The news is covering it. All American Rejects. Like, who would have thought that anyone would care about them in the year 2025, So I think things like that are so smart. So it's like, if we can just like somehow speak frankly with marketing and just be like, okay, we know you need to do this, but also like, look at these amazing brands that we all agree that we think are doing things really well. What can we see? Like, they're also focusing their efforts on story and on creating a memorable impact and things like that, And it's like, if we want to have something more lasting than just the latest Memorial Day sale, like, we need to be starting to invest in that. And we used to work with Red Bull, and they do such a good job at this. Like, they have so many different in-person activations and events that they throw for free for communities. And it's like, maybe there's a cover fee if you're going to participate, but it's like, people can just go and show up, and there's this huge branded Red Bull event that's like, incredible. Like, they have soapbox derbies. Then they have like the more major stuff where they're doing like the stratosphere jump. It's a spectacle, and it's something where it's an experience that you're going to remember. And that's going to have like, they're almost imprinting on you. You're like, that was an amazing experience, and it's like, it's just so smart. It's like the way that the Bus family thought about the Lakers. It's like making it a show, free, like there's like a free like performance at halftime from the Lakers girls. Like, you get to see all your favorite celebrities. And I know that's like the benefit of being in LA, but it's like, treating it like that, of like, what's something fun that we can do for our audience that's like an investment in them, or like just like something aspirational and interesting that's like a Goodyear blimp moment. That's what me and Jen call it. We're like the Goodyear blimp of it all. Like, what's the fun roadside attraction thing that maybe it doesn't even make sense like directly, like, why a blimp? Just because it's fun and everybody who sees it is like immediately delighted and wants to stop and grab their phone and take a picture. It's like, you can be more brand specific, of course, but it's like those kind of things are so invaluable. And I love when brands take the time to do those things. It's so delightful, and it stands out so much in a sea of kind of like sameness.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a risk, right? But like, and I think I'm the other thing too with this is, some of our work is not quantitative. And is that the right way to say that word? Anyway, like, I feel like we can't always count the return of investment that we're bringing to the table as creatives or brand designers. Other than, like the feedback I get the most often is like, you made it incredibly easy for me to tell my story. Every time I turned around, I could tell my story. Yeah. It's amazing. And it's just like, you helped us know who we were. You helped us share who we were and do it succinctly and consistently over and over and over, and give us all the materials that we needed to share that with other people. And other people took us seriously because of it. It's like, yes. But I feel like, is there an element to what we do like that is, so I think about this. There's an element of what we do that's magical, right? It's novel. It's the thing that it's unexpected. It's something that you haven't seen before. And if you're good at being creative, that's what it is, right? It's novel, it's new, it's creative, it's different. When you're talking to someone who's really into statistics, marketing, business, and honestly, at the end of the day, playing it safe. That's kind of what I get out of a lot of those conversations. And again, there was a time when marketing for Red Bull or for, marketing for Andy Pearson just spoke at Creative Works West for Liquid Death. Oh my gosh. Like, he's definitely, he's a creative, but he's also working with marketing all the time. And they just go for big swing.
He saw our Nicoletto's work when he was in Nashville, and he emailed us and was like, I love what you guys did. It blew my mind. I was so excited. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
The thing that I thought was really remarkable about understanding more about the Liquid Death story is that the CEO of the company came from the ad world. Like, he's a creative first. And so that's why I guess they take that same approach, or they have kind of a crazy approach to marketing and creative. But yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that crushes me over the years is when I have a client who brings me in and they have this really amazing idea and they want to do this really amazing work. And at the end of the day, the money's not there to pull it off. And then we end up playing a lot of it safe. And then the impact isn't there. And then you end up kind of like removing yourself from the project or leaving that project just thinking like, well, that's not going to go over well. My time invested there was not great. And it's not going to get me the next thing that I want to do, because it didn't allow me to, it didn't allow anyone to stretch their legs and to do something like you were talking about earlier, which is like take a risk and do something that people will remember and something that would impact people and touch people.
Yeah. No, I've been there where I've like been really self-critical of like what got approved in the end. And I think every creative goes through that to some degree. It's like, sometimes it's a little thing where you're like, oh, this could have been so much better if we had just done this one day. And then sometimes it's literally like, I don't even want to show this on my portfolio. Like, I'm glad that they're happy, and that's a win in of itself. But it's like this, I just feel like this could have been so much more. And it's like, those are really hard when at the beginning you have such like, everyone's on the same page. It seems like to have like, do something like cool and try something new and do this. And then it's like kind of at the end of the day, you're like, oh, whether it was the C-suite, like the CEO coming in and like maybe quashing it down a bit, or maybe it was just that they thought they wanted to be exciting. And then they realized like, they weren't prepared to like take that risk, like you said. And it is hard. And it's like, sometimes I've gone back to those projects and I've been like, wow, I was way too critical. This turned out really charming, really delightful. And it was a really great extension of their brand, like, and the things that work really well. And it's like, maybe this wasn't an instance where we really needed to reinvent the wheel. And it's like, maybe I was too critical on that. And then there's other ones where you go back on and you're just like, wow, that turned out like kind of, it wasn't a great received. And there's probably a reason for that. Like my instincts were right on that one. So
yeah,
it is interesting. I do find that interesting is like the more years of experience you have, the more 2020 looking back, and you try to apply that going forward. But, you really don't know how certain things are going to shake out. But
yeah, and I think it's such a disservice to yourself and to the client to hold things so precious. Because we all understand that, like you're saying, on the tail end of this, we may not understand the impact, because in a lot of our work is just something we're trying that's new. Again, we're trying as hard as we can to make it authentic, to make it relatable to that audience or the audience that they're trying to go for. But at the end of the day, it's you hold things like, I think that's an ongoing thing at the conference is, older creatives just talking about not keeping things or picking your battles and not making things so precious. because at the end of the day, you really don't understand what's going to happen with this work. And hindsight is 2020, obviously.
That's so true. That's so true.
Quick break. If this conversation's hitting home, send it to one person you think would enjoy it. A fellow designer, a studio owner, someone who's wrestling with the same questions about AI, capitalism, and staying creative in the midst of it all. The stuff that lasts is real connection, a text, an email, a you need to hear this message. You can also stay in the loop by signing up for our newsletter and checking out upcoming Creative Workers Union workshops and events, all linked in the show notes. All right, back to Amy. Yeah, so I wanted to take a little bit of a turn in this conversation and just kind of talk about the last few years and your work and what you've been doing and kind of lessons that you've been learning and going through. If you don't know, and I'm sure this is not a part of that project, but before we get into that, actually, so I am a child of Spielberg. I was born and raised on those movies. Also Star Wars. You can see some of the Star Wars stuff behind me.
Right.
But you guys got a chance to work with ILM, which oh my goodness, like that is like one of the, like if I could work with or even visit or whatever, would be amazing. Could you tell me more about like how that came about? You were also able to get the best work, I thought. I don't know if you showed much that was on the cutting room floor, but a lot of the stuff that you guys put out is actually perfect. You know, it's like phenomenally perfect.
They are so like anybody who has not watched Light and Magic, the documentary series on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
Run to your TV, binge it all. It is the most inspiring, interesting, like these creatives are so scrappy, but also just like so eager to try something new, create a fully new system if it means that it'll look better. Like they are just so scrappy and intuitive and like creative. And everyone they hire, and it's kind of like attracts like. So the first person that they hired there was John Dykstra. And like, he was this like, kind of like, I think a computer, like more like an engineer when he was studying at Long Beach. And so they attracted all these people who are dual like creatives and sort of like scientists, you know, or like engineers. So it's like, I found that fascinating, but like everybody we worked with, and we worked with like Rob Coleman, who's like, you know, he worked on all the new like Star Wars is episode 1 through 3. We got to work every day with Rob Bordeaux, who's like iconic and has worked on, again, a lot of the Star Wars series. And just all these really iconic people. John Knoll, the creator of Photoshop. Like, these people are just fascinating. And literally when they would give feedback, it was like, oh, wow, that made it better. Like, everybody made the project better. And it was so cool. And I think, you know, sometimes you can get in this thing of like, we know what's best. And it's like, you know, I think it's so important to remember that like input is always like, you should always consider it. And there were times that we did push back. I will say that. And it's like a lot of creatives that don't understand brand will be kind of confused at like the logo can't do everything and, you know, things like that. So it was great having the chief creative officer, Rob, and us like kind of on the same page as far as like what the brand needed to be. And then like how we could have fun with like other deliverables and things like that. So, but it was such one of those peak moments in your career. And I think honestly, after it was done and we had such an amazing reception, brand new, reviewed it wonderfully. The comments were so amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The team itself, we did an internal like review for the team, like as like a launch for like 3 different time zones, because they have 6 campuses from like, you know, the Asia to Canada to America, like Australia, they're everywhere. So we had three launches for the employees, and we were just like, oh my gosh, they're probably going to hate it. Cause you know, Star Wars and Island fans can be so critical because it's so important to them, which is amazing. It's like, it's amazing when anyone has ownership over something you made that in that way, because it means they really care. So, but they all loved it and they all felt like it really embodied them. So it was like amazing. But I will say, like, after that, I was like, we're going to be getting called by Spielberg. Like, everyone's going to be calling to like rebrand their studio, you know, like, I think I've just like had like this thing of like, this is the beginning of like even like more, you know, and I think I like just over like expected like a huge like takeoff, but it was like, you know, 2023, that's when like the economy is really slowing down. I couldn't tell if it was just us or everybody, but it was like the kind of requests we were getting in were just like, it was like we would get a bunch of really great requests from really great brand names. And then like when it came time to actually like confirming the scope and confirming the price, it was just like taking forever for people to actually like get going and
pull
like
the trigger,
agree to a price, and agree to like, invest the money into this thing that they say they want to do. Cause I think a lot of people knew like at that time, like when it's slow, a lot of people invest in brand because they have the time to, and you're trying to remind people that when you do have money to spend, it's like, spend it with us kind of thing. So, but I think I was just like, I think I like that mountaintop experience meant that there had to be a valley experience soon to follow. And there definitely was. Like, I for sure, like that year following was like, I felt like I was having like a bit of a midlife crisis for, we had been running Hoodzpah for like 14 years since 2011. So I guess at that time it would be like 12 or 13. But, I think it's just like you kind of you start to be like, I've seen everything. Like it's, it's flow economy. We had all these great projects that we wanted to do that like were kind of falling by the wayside just because we didn't have the time because we had so much client work. And then the client work that we had, like so much of it got put on hold. Like either a new chief creative officer came in and like was like, we're going to put a pause on this, which means that's just jargon for like, this is never going to see the light of day.
Right.
And it was like, and again, it was like these projects that we felt like, oh, wow, we're finally going to be up there in conversation with like Studio Kodo and like, really finally be like a studio that kind of has like a reputation that we can do really great work, even though we're a small studio. And like, we had 2 projects that were basically completed that never saw the light of day. And I think my confidence just like took a huge hit as far as like, we didn't have anything to show for the whole year that we'd, it just felt like, I was just like, man, I really thought this was going to be our year. And like, it's just one of those weird lulls that I think you go through if you're in this industry long enough. You're
well,
kind of a
especially
similar age.
these days. Yeah. Well, and especially these days, right? So, I mean, Creative Works, 12, 13 years now coming up on it. And, it's not getting any easier. And you kind of think to yourself, I think that like the longer I think that's the trajectory for most professionals is like the longer you stick with it, the greater the return, the easier, the more margins you can bake into things. And at least what I was finding the past couple of years is that like, I'm working harder than I did when I was in my 20s at times. And I've got 4 kids. Like there's a lot of things that I think were just like happening. And, you come to the end of like, man, what am I doing with my life? Did I make the right
100%.
decision? I mean, it gets super existential for me.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I got to the point where I was like, I really miss my barista job. Like, do you know what I mean? I was like, everyone, like, I knew exactly what to do. Everyone was so happy with the end result. Like, and it was just such a stress-free way of life. My tips were amazing, like silly stuff. Like, I mean, baristaing was great, but it's just like, Amy, like you're so blessed and you need to like really like start to take stock a little bit. But I think I know what you're saying. And I think it's times like those that I'm always so glad that we have like, you're really ingrained in the creative community and I am too. I have so many friends that if I text and just be like, I hate everything right now, every project, like I want to be excited, but I feel like I just know ideas are going to get shot down. Like, I feel like I've seen everything before. That's when I really started to get worried. I was like, everything, I feel like I've seen it. Everything's been done before. Every time I see something on brand new, I'm like, yep. Oh yeah, they did that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. It's this permutation of the set variables that we can do. It's like nothing was surprising me anymore like it did when I was younger. Cause like, you've just been around, you've seen it. And it's like, that's when it's really hard to keep the like excitement and the like, yeah, it's all been done before, but that's what's exciting is like, you can still riff on it in a small way to make it new and make it impactful. And I texted my friend, Paul Hutchison, who runs Hype Type. I was like, I think I'm going to do like this because he's a little older than me and he also runs his own studio. And I was like, I just feel like.
Did you start buying things? Were there any purchases around here that were?
I went the hobby route. Okay. Are you a buyer? Because I went the hobby route. Like I started painting again, and I was like, I did my paintings that like here and here. I was like painting again, and I was like trying to do little like pastel drawings that like timed pastel drawings just to be creative and like just in a different way. And, I think I was just worried that like, I didn't have any good ideas left. Like, do you ever get that feeling of like, am I ever going to have another good idea? Like, I don't know. It's so weird to think back on it because I've kind of come out of it, but it felt real. It felt really real.
I think for me was I start to feel like a dinosaur, right? I start to feel like my values that I've had for such a long time just don't matter anymore. Right.
Especially with AI, right? It's like.
Exactly. Well, it's like AI plus capitalism equals, oh my God, like, what are we doing? And, again, I'm not anti-capitalism by any stretch of the imagination, but, when the people who have built these huge businesses and that need to make money to keep not only their businesses going, but their lifestyle going, continue to make these decisions that at the end of the day are putting, like investments and brand last because they just need to keep pushing forward. And then we're going to also use things like AI for commercials or for, ideas or whatever it is that we used to get paid for. We've done this for so long. And again, you expect things to be going a certain way. And then when you realize it's not, then you're like, fuck, what do I do? Like, is this a bad life decision? Like, I've been divorced. I've like had to sell houses. Like, I mean, like, is this just in a pile of like bad life decisions for me? And then there's little things along the way that you get reminded of, like, talking with Tina at Creative Mornings. She had to like snap me out of some of my bullshit. And she was just like, remember. And she was like, hey, Josh, you need to remember what you're doing is remarkable and that you're doing it by yourself and that currency comes in other ways other than money. And I was like, and okay, like I just like, I had to sit with that for a minute and think like, well, what else would I do? And I don't know. It's one of those things that you got to pay the bills at the end of the day. So the money has to come in and you have a responsibility. You have like 3 employees now, you and Jen do. Like at the end of the day I don't want to gloss over the fact that we all have real responsibilities, right? We have house payments, car payments, kids, I don't know, retirement, whatever it is that you're stuck paying for. That's a thing. And, but at the end of the day, for us to live lives that create work and keep our creative spirit up there, like it's like there has to be a certain kind of dynamic at play. And I'm always working to help people find that dynamic, but
having those friends is so key because I texted my friend Paul and I was like, we were just joking. And I was just like, when you just really need to tell someone, like we were talking about something completely different. Like, I think it was like the Jaguar rebrand because he's English and he has a old Land Rover and Jen has an old Land Rover and I used to have an old Mercedes. We all love like classic cars and classic brands.
I love that version of the Mercedes, by the way.
Yes.
I remember that car you guys had.
I loved that car. And so like, I think we're always just like talking like, what have they done to Jaguar? Or what have they done to this? And but sure. I literally just had to tell someone and I was like, everything sucks. Like nothing's new. Everything's been done. And he's like, oh my gosh, stop it. Like, it's going to be okay. Everyone goes through this. I went through it. Like, you're just reaching that phase in your life where you've experienced a lot and there's something to be thankful for there. You know what I mean? I think as cheesy as it is, like Californians get made fun of because we all do yoga and we're all like, gratitude. You have to remember gratitude. But honestly, it's so true. Like me and Jen do this exercise at the end of the year where we like recap our business goals and we recap like what worked, how much we made, who our best clients were, things that fell apart, why they might have fallen apart, what we didn't meet our goals on, which year on year has been like not finishing the 2nd edition of our book, Freelance and Business and Stuff, that we've been desperately trying to finish. But it's which like,
I absolutely love.
Yeah. So, and we're so close now, actually. Like we have one more chapter to proof and then we're like almost done. But I've been saying that for 2 years. So it's famous last words. But I think when we finally took the time at the end of 2023, and we didn't even do it. We usually do it every year, like kind of like before New Year's, because we're hanging out together with family for, the holidays. And it's like a fun time to kind of recap and look back. But we didn't even do it because we were just kind of like so like despondent and disillusioned and just like, we just wanted to tune out from work. I was just like, I just want to play video games and watch movies and drink, mulled wine. And I don't want to think about it. And so we ended up doing it more like, I wanted a little bit later. and maybe like early January. And then it was kind of like, oh, shoot, we had a really great year. It was a great fiscal year. Yeah, we lost a lot of stuff, but in the end, we still did better than last year somehow, even though it was a really tough year for everyone we talked to. And then it was like, oh, wow, like we did finish a lot of really great projects. They were just smaller scopes, or it was like projects with clients that we had before. It wasn't a big rebrand. It was nothing exciting that you can like send brand new necessarily other than ILM, but it's like, we did a lot of good things, you know? And I think that was 2023 and 2024, because 2024 was when it really set in, where I was just like, everything was getting delayed. And, you know, it was just kind of like, we took a lot of time off for sabbatical to finish our book. And we still, even though we took time off, we still weren't anywhere near close to done with it, but we couldn't keep taking time off. We had client work booked to do. Right. So I think just being able, taking the time to actually like really look back and take stock and say, like, these were really great things that happened. Like, there's a lot to be thankful for. There was a lot that went right, and focusing on that instead of what went wrong is like crucial, especially if you're running your own thing or you're in any kind of leadership position, because there's so much on you to keep things running, and you have to give so much to other people to make sure that they feel encouraged. So it's like, you really have to take the time to make sure that you're getting filled up in some sort of way. So yeah, but community is key there. Like, we have our freelance business and stuff Slack channel, where it's like, you know, anybody that's taken one of our courses can be in the Slack channel where they can have community. And like, just having those people where everyone can be like, everyone started asking like, is everyone slow? Is everyone's inbox slower than normal? And it was like, I think it was just so nice for everyone to be like, yeah, no, it's not just me. It's not me. It's not a reflection on my work. Like, everyone's a little bit slower. People are slower to pull the trigger, if, you know, and things like that. It's just really nice to know that you're like not alone.
Yeah. And I think I try to say this a lot. And I had a conversation with my son about this, who's not on Instagram yet. He's 14, but Instagram, as you know, like, it's a really great place for inspiration. He plays guitar, and I watch like tons of drum videos and tons of guitar videos and just music videos in general, because I'm just fascinated by people who can play music. And I think it's really amazing. And there are also a lot of young people, younger than him even, that are on Instagram, and, you know, they're putting this amazing content out there. And the thing I was trying to get across to him is, because he was like, well, why don't you just let me on Instagram? And I'm like, well, because you're only seeing one side of it. You're only seeing the side that people are allowing you to see. And that's not a very vulnerable side. And so we have these, I mean, I think that's for your Slack channel, or for the conference, or, you know, for our close friend group. That's where people can be more vulnerable. And it's okay to kind of keep your best foot out there on, you know, Instagram and LinkedIn, because that's where you get more business, right? And you got to keep everything going for business. And sadly, I mean, it's just sad. You can't be vulnerable on those channels, or as much as you want to be, because your brand has to be, you know, strength and confidence.
Yeah. Clients want to feel like, yes, like this person can confidently help me when I'm like feeling lost.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I feel like, you know, we all just have to remember at the end of the day, and again, it's a lesson that I'm sure my 14-year-old won't learn anytime soon, is that like, social media for the most part it's not all fake, obviously, because there's people telling great stories out there, but it's just not telling the entire truth. And so for all of us who are doom scrolling or trying to figure out what's going on in the industry, or being inspired by new work, we have to remember that almost everyone that I know is going through some sort of crisis, whether it's midlife or, you know, their business is not doing what it used to be. There's something that's so uncertain about the time that we're living through right now. AI is a huge part of that. I think the administration is a huge part of that too. And like, there's just not a way for all of us to like have the same footing that we kind of, you know, had before, took for granted, whatever you can say about what that was. And so it's just a very difficult time. And I think the reason why I want to do this podcast and, you know, do community is so that at least once or twice we can get together a year, maybe because of the podcast more often, and like literally just kind of be real about it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And people can learn.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. Yeah. Like you said, like you have to put your best foot forward when you're trying to get business. Like, they don't want your baggage to be their baggage. They already have their own baggage with their business,
That's
or
right.
their life. So it's like when you're presenting your brand and your studio, like, yeah, you have to put your best foot forward. But yeah, that's why things like TikTok are so fun, because there is an expectation of like messiness. And I love
Oh,
TikTok.
really?
It's so
I'm not on
fun.
TikTok at all.
Oh my gosh. It's so fun. And it's like, if people try to be too polished or too together, it doesn't really play that well. Like, it's like what works on Instagram is sure to flop on TikTok. And then what works well on TikTok usually flops for us on Instagram. So it's like we kind of have our two different audiences, but it's like, it's just where you can joke around, talk more candidly. There's a lot of stuff that does crossover for us, just if it's like a project behind the scenes or like advice or something like that. But it's also just, people are a lot more transparent. It's like very fun. And I think brands are also feeling like they can also be a little bit more transparent and have more of a distinct voice, because they're seeing how well that works with not just Gen Z, but like kind of anyone. Like, I keep seeing people trying to separate, like, who is Gen Z and what are I saw one video that was like, they don't care about authenticity. They just want to be entertained. And then I saw another video that was like, Gen Z, if they want authenticity, it's like everybody's got a different, angle and a different statement. But I think as humans, I think most everyone wants both. Right. They want both. They want it authentic, but they also want to be entertained. It's a little of both. It's never one thing, but those are the two things that I always try to think about. It's like, does this feel true to the voice of the brand that either we're working for or stuff it's left? And is there something a little entertaining that will stick with someone besides just the basics? And it's like, if you can do those things, you're probably okay.
Yes. And I think, yeah, for sure. And I feel like too, also just, lightening the load, with entertainment. Like, so Meg Lewis and I talked about this a bit, but, Meg Lewis, if you know Meg Lewis, is a very colorful character. They were into clowning growing up. I mean, all this stuff that is miming and all the stuff that continues to kind of affect their brand. And, and I'm a very serious person. I mean, I can still pal around and send stupid stuff online to people, but for the most part, I feel like it's not my brand. It's just who I am. I'm a very serious person. So much matters to me. And if there wasn't a balance at even our conference events or even on these podcasts of like light and seriousness or light and heavy, it just would be too much all the time. And so I feel like that's one of the things that I'm learning the older I get, is like, when I was younger and had all the energy to be an activist or do whatever, I was all in on that. But like, I think for the most part, I was too much of a serious person. And I'm so thankful now in hindsight that I could kind of balance that out. I'll have to check out TikTok, because that sounds like a platform for me, but like social media in general just gives me anxiety, because like the thought of coming up with one more username for all of the things that I'm doing just
I know
seems crazy.
It is. It's so difficult to keep up with. I mean, to be honest, I have so many friends that are on TikTok that has never posted. It's such a great way to tune out. Yeah, you just tune out, and it's no one you know. Pretty much everyone you follow is somebody you don't know. It's just somebody that with shared interest or whatever. So it's kind of it's not really a social platform. It's more of like, we're all watching TV and there's a chat section, like.
Oh, that's a good way to think about it. All right. Speaking of all the things that we're into, Hoodzpah is a brand studio that does illustration design, all of this, web, digital, all this stuff. But y'all are doing so much more than that. You were speaking about your Slack group. You sell amazing products. You have these resources. What are all the things that you guys have diversified your income into? Even if they're just things that you like to do for fun, because I feel like at a certain point in your career, it's almost necessary to diversify yourself, and then where the income's coming from. But also, like, I feel like you guys do that with a lot of conviction, right? Like, you're providing resources back to the community that served you, and they're done at in such a great way that's not too seriously, super engaging. And then to learn on the back end that you're also doing like a Slack channel to serve those folks too is just really great, because it means it's more than just selling a book for you. It's more about real things. And even like to mention, that like someone that was in your Slack group ended up leading, they were attendees at the conference a few years ago, and they ended up leading a workshop at Creative Works West this past month. And Jesse and Hannah are fantastic people.
Aren't they incredible?
And such
I know.
They are.
I know you were like, do you guys want to do a brand workshop again? And I was like, oh, we can't make it. And I was like, I know exactly who you should get. It's Trust Design. I was like, you know what? You just meet people and you're like, they're going to skyrocket. Like, they're just going to skyrocket. Yeah. And I was just like, I feel that way about them. And then I also have a couple friends. They're also twins. They're named Jenna and Kelly Freaches. They have a studio called A Good Pair. And I'm like, I want to text them and be like, do some sort of speaking gig anywhere, like literally at a local college, because I want to start referring you to every conference when they ask me if I know any speakers, because I just feel like they're so clever. They're twins. Like, there's that kind of like marketing gimmick, and they're just so interesting. So anyway, I'm so glad that Hannah and Trust and that worked out. So, but as far as like diversifying income, I think you've nailed it. Like, the people that I really admire and that I look to that have had really great careers and have been able to weather kind of like the ups and downs. Like, you're never going to be always in vogue. Like, even actors have like renaissances much later in their career, and they kind of go out of style. Like, people almost get overwhelmed with seeing them too much. And they're like, yeah, we already saw that. Like, we're done with that. We had a whole decade of that, So it's like, you kind of have to expect that eventually you're going to have that kind of pushback of like, oh, do we really want to use them anymore? So I'm always just like, I think it's nice to have something that's just for you. And that's like, something, whether it's a product like that serves your community, or whether it's just like a fun passion project. Like, for us, making the fonts, like, that is like our passion zone. Like, I could do that all day for 10 hours a day. And I wouldn't be tired, like, it's just so fun. It's so rewarding seeing it out in the world and seeing how people use it. Like, that gives me life every day. And I'm like, I never would have used it that way. That's amazing. So it's like, having those things is so nice. And it also gives you confidence when, like, if you have a couple projects where like the clients, it's like you're vibing and everything's great, but you're just not aligning on like creative output. Like, that can be really disheartening of like, I really thought we understood each other. Like, I thought they were going to go for this. Like, I just don't understand where the disconnect is. It's like having your own thing where you're like, no, I like this. I'm going to release this. And then you get a kind of a decent response to a good response. Like, that's such a confidence builder. And like, even in Hollywood, when you look at like the actors who are able to like have long careers, like, at some point or another, they've had to produce something for themselves. They've had to write something for themselves because they've been boxed into a corner and everyone thinks they know what they are. Like, think about Matthew McConaughey. That guy was just like a rom-com, like, pretty boy. And then he like, he had to take like nickels and dimes for an indie flick to show like, no, I can actually do real acting. Or like, like the Affleck and Damon, or literally anybody, Greta Gerwig. It's like, anybody who takes it upon themselves to either produce something or write something for themselves has been able to expand their career beyond what people expected. So it's like, I like to think about that in terms of like a creative career too. It's like, what are my hobbies? What am I interested in? How can I make something fun for me that other people will enjoy, that might also be a great marketing tool? Like, Jen and I were just talking about this because, we love the NBA and we love the Lakers. And we recently got to do a project with, the NBA doing a summer league brand for California Classic, which is like the Lakers, the Golden State Warriors.
I saw that.
Yeah, the Spurs. And it's like
so
they
cool.
all, and it was really fun, but it was like a small thing. And it was like definitely like dipping our toe into an area that we want to get involved more in. So we were like, gosh, we should think of something fun. We didn't have time for the playoffs this year, and the Lakers didn't make it very far, but I'm like, we got Luka. We're going to be in the playoffs next year. Like, let's plan something now. Like, something fun, something interactive that we can do as fans that other people can enjoy. And maybe it'll open up an avenue for something, So, every time we quote something, if we just found out we lost a job today, and that was like something we really wanted. And it was kind of in that zone of like, it's in the sports world a little bit, but it's also in the product world a little bit. So like CPG, consumer packaged goods. And we lost it. And I was like, we would have been perfect. And we were like, I think we just need a little bit more of that kind of work in our portfolio. So now it's like, okay, what are we going to make? What are we going to do? Like, what are we going to make? Let's figure something out. So, without being like, you can sometimes you can come off as like desperate if you do like, you know, I mean, to each his own. I don't want to like this sound like I'm talking trash on anyone, but it's like when you redesign a brand that already exists out there. It's like, I think they're fascinating. I love watching the one from, I think GQ does one, GQ Sports does one. I love seeing like, what's his take on it. I love seeing Alan Peters does one too. And it's interesting just seeing like, okay, what's the different takes on this? But, I always wonder if that converts as well as maybe just coming up with a creative, clever idea, that kind of like uses brands, but maybe like utilizes it in a different way. And that's just for us, like for what we like to do, how we like to approach our passion projects. Like the redesigning of the logo stuff or anything like that is amazing for engagement and for teaching and for just like getting your name out there. Like it's incredible. Like look at Alan Peters. The guy has like 100,000 likes on each of those posts. Like people are learning, they're excited about it, and his name is out there. He's getting work from it, you know? So it's like, there's no wrong way to do it necessarily. It's just, you know, it's like, how do you want to approach this to make sure you're getting a certain kind of work in the door, you know?
Well, and what seems to drive you guys is in a weird way, like not in a weird way, but just giving back. Like, so from the tools that you have to the resources that you make, to the fonts that you make, to the book that you're writing, in a lot of ways, I mean, it's almost like you're writing a love letter to the people that you once were, you know?
Josh, we just love to yap. Like if somebody asks this question, I'm like, I have an answer. Like I have an answer for that. Like, let me just spill my guts. But no, yeah, I think we do. We love community. Like I just love talking with people. Like I love hanging out. And it's like you do it enough and you start to recognize patterns of like when you talk to enough people in your industry or business owners, like you're like, oh, there's some patterns. And then when you get the same questions from students or peers, you're like, I know the pattern. Like if I can just jot this down, like this will be so helpful and that sort of thing. So I think sometimes it's just like, we've noticed that like, oh, there's like a little niche in the market for that. We keep getting asked that question. That's like a signal. That's like a little signal from the universe that this might be something interesting that could be like a product or a course or whatever. So.
Yeah. And it's so great. And, we did a skill camp with you guys.
That was so
You've
fun.
spoken, you spoke a long time ago at the second one.
We spoke at one in Memphis. Yeah. With Dan Pizzaro and Dan Christopherson was also on the lineup.
Yeah.
And Brandon Reich was on the lineup. Yeah.
Brandon Reich was.
Oh, he was the MC.
Technical. No, he was doing. There was a time where I could get Brandon. There was a time when I would do something and Brandon would just show up, which was amazing.
I love that.
And now he's busy having a family and he's building this amazing house. But he's told me he's going to be on the podcast. So we're going to do that. Like, I hope within the next couple of weeks, because we just got on the phone and I forcibly had to hang up on him. I was like, dude, we're talking about way too many good things that need to be shared.
That's exactly what happened before this podcast. You were like texting me, you were like, let's talk about this. And then we like started this like heavy conversation. I'm like, wait, save it for the pod. Save it for the pod. We have to get off.
I know you know, and I think it's just so important to have these conversations. And I'm so glad that you like to talk and you like to gab about these things because it's so important. And it also like, it comes with, I mean, these conversations come with a level of experience that other people may need to hear, right? I mean, not everyone is on the same path that we are or at the same level or, you know, experience or whatever, but so many people just don't, like you said earlier, don't know until you know. And there are so many people who won't be able to travel to Seattle, won't be able to travel to, you know, Los Angeles or Orange County and do that. And so I feel like, you know, we've got to have more conversations, more candid conversations too, about, you know, the profession that we've chosen, the work that we do, the convictions that drive us. Like that's the biggest thing for me is like, I just really want to understand and better understand like what drove someone to make this decision and how can we help bottle that up so that, you know, so that they can like share that with the world. I mean, I think that's every brand should do that. So I'm super stoked that we met. How did we meet a long time ago? Did I just ask you to speak and that was kind of where it came from, or?
It must have been like, because we had spoken at Creative South and then you were one of the first conferences we spoke at after that, because that was our first ever talk. It was horrible. Shout out to Mike Jones for giving us that opportunity, because we got our like jitters out there, and everyone was so nice. And it was such a small crew that it was like, it couldn't have been a better crew to like get your throwaway one out on. But it must have been that you just asked us to speak, I guess, because I don't think I had ever met you yet.
No, and I don't think we had met either, but I was trying to figure out the type of work that you were doing back then, because one of the things that I love about y'all's story is you worked at this, like, crappy little magazine in a garage back in the day.
That's right.
And I just think that that's so good, because I mean, when I worked at Ardent Records, I was doing, like, it was cool because it was a record label, but like what I was asked to do, like put ads together with all of this information on it. Like that was back when everything that your boss was thinking had to fit in a 2x6-inch square, and it looked horrible. No one ever read it.
Yeah.
But I just think about what you guys were doing back then, and you were having to do that over and over and over and over again, in a garage. And then, a few years later, you're on the stage at Creative South and Creative Works. And then, I mean, just blown up since then. So,
and that's literally all to community. That's all to community. Like whenever someone feels stuck, or they're like, I don't know enough people, or I'm not in the right location, and I'm like, no one is to start. Like literally just start doing what you can. And as you have more means, you can do more, but don't feel like you have to go into debt to do any of these things. The community that you have is like super powerful. Like I got this Creative South speaking gig just because I had a dribble friend named Nick Slater, who was so awesome to recommend me.
Nick.
Yeah. And he doesn't even remember recommending me. That's the funny part, is like, it's like these little tic-tac things that you do can really affect someone's life positively. So it's like, just get involved in your community in any way. Do you have friends who need help on projects? Help them. Like literally we were taking on anything we could at the beginning. And I learned so much from the coupon clipper job about like being organized, because we had insane workloads. So like even just like learning how to take the best from each project and adopt that into your system, and being smart enough to break down what didn't work, and just like take the time to examine what's going on in your business and what's going on in your career, and proactively like make steps to either pivot if it's not working, or, recognize what is working and kind of lean into that. But literally you don't have to go into debt. There's so much out there right now between podcasts, TikTok, like there's so many ways to kind of like make a splash more than there ever has been. Everything's remote now. We ran a course like last year, our brand identity course that we do through Maven. And it's like one of those like in person, kind of like what we did with the creative skill camp, but just a little bit longer kind of timeline. And one of the guys that took the course and joined the Slack we kept in touch with, I hired him for a freelance project. We just offered him a job 2 weeks ago, and now he works in Hoodzpah. Like you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's like, we were really hesitant to hire anyone because hiring strangers is so hard. We've only ever hired people that we kind of know. So we were just like, we just have to have someone come along that just, it's fluid. Our sensibility makes sense because we have a very specific Hoodzpah style. Apparently that's like, I'm realizing. So it just worked out. So it's like, you just don't know. Take the course, take the class, ask the question, make sure you're not a wallflower. I think that's the biggest thing, is like people will go to events and then just kind of stand in the corner. It's like, no, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to say like, hey, I'm Amy. It's like, you really do have to make those connections, and, like Pretty Useful is such a great example. Like they're not in a huge market, and they're doing incredible work. And I've sent stuff their way all the time because they're an incredible studio.
Yeah. And their story too is, I mean, I have photos of both Allie and Claire, first year, 2014, standing up and asking questions at the first conference. Then the second year, I don't know if anything happened there. I think something was brewing, but by the third 17, they had put together their company Pretty Useful, which at that time was literally just like a brand that they had put together. They wanted to make things that were pretty and useful.
Yeah, they had the pins, cool. And they had actual goods, and
actual goods. And then the next year their booth like doubled in size, or their product offering and just their presence. And then that same year they were on stage with Dan Casaro and Dan Christopherson and Meg Lewis and Jen Masari and Laura B. Like basically like, and they were just curious. That's all it was. They were curious. And then they like plugged themselves into every opportunity, asked a lot of questions. And then before you know it, they're huge.
That's it. Yeah.
I know. And you're right. I think for a lot of creatives, they, and I see this a lot, especially at our like kind of after parties or dinners. It's like they kind of close back, they sit in a corner or they, whatever. And I try to go up to each and every one of them and say, hey, how's it going? What'd you think of today? And try to get them kind of to come out of their shell. And then before you know it, they're sitting next to, Barry Ament from Ames Bros and like talking to the guy who, won a Grammy with his brother Jeff and like, and they're just like having dinner together and you're just like, that's incredible. Anyway, I got to go to this other conversation. Like it just blows my mind. And we all want to be known at the end of the day. Like that's another thing I'm trying to identify. It's like, we all want to be known in some weird way, shape or form, even if we're a recluse or we're shy or whatever. And the fact that you can rub shoulders at these events, whether it's Creative South, Crop Cons, Brand New, I'm trying to think of all the really great conferences that are out there, but like you literally get a chance at most, if not every one of these, to rub shoulders with your heroes 100%. Or people that you had no idea, were doing the work that they were doing or the work that you've been admiring for a long time. It's so important to understand that like, man, just a few years ago, these folks were doing the same work that I'm doing right now.
Totally. Totally. Yep. I know. It's like, make the small thing that's easy. Like, go to the local meetup, do an online, there's a lot of events now, like through Letterform Archive where you can just tune into a Zoom and be in the chat. It's like, it's like whatever it is, whatever's feasible for you right now is like, just start practicing because you really don't know. Like I've had friends from high school back in Kentucky bring us the most fun projects, it's just like, you just don't know.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. It's like, you just don't know what friend is going to be doing something interesting or know someone who's starting something interesting. Like some people in California can be very, very intentional and schemy about who they try to befriend and who they try to talk to. And it's like, you're doing it wrong. It's never who you think. The person who seems super successful and like they're going to have like a really cool project is probably inflating that a lot and is not doing very much interesting. It's like, the more you talk about it, the less you're actually probably doing it. So it's like, you just really don't know what the really fun project is. And honestly, at a lot of the medium-sized companies that we work with and the small companies we work with, the projects are so fun and so creative. And that lands us a lot of bigger name company work because they saw like the fun experimental stuff we did with smaller companies. So you don't know what's going to lead to the next big thing. You just don't.
Yeah. And when you have kind of like a gatekeepy mindset versus like an abundance mindset, and I get it. I mean, people have done things to me that I'm not happy about, but once you kind of make that shift in your own career where you're just trying to share what you know with people who don't know, and you don't care whether they're going to get your client or the next job or whatever it is, like that's when I think everything takes off and the vibes and all the things get so much more impactful, frankly. Because you're incredibly unique. I mean, I don't know. It's like, even if someone can rip you off, their relationship with the client is going to be completely different. Like there's so much that you're bringing to the table that you should, value and admire and learn more about yourself to understand that you're unique. You're bringing something to the table, even if you have a certain aesthetic or you feel like your work's too close to so-and-so's. Keep pushing it, keep putting yourself out there. And eventually I think some of these things are going to land, especially if you continue to be curious and driven, that's the thing that I can't help at the end of the day. It's like, I'm going to continue doing this as long as I can. And I'm going to continue to do new things as long as I can. And I can only do that in community because, I got to make sure that I'm not going crazy, that I've got good ideas, that I've got a sounding board, can bounce some things off of folks. So,
totally.
But, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your time. And thank you for, being a part of our community. I can't wait till the next event we can plug you into, you and Jen.
It's so good chatting.
Congratulations.
Bye, Josh.
All right. Bye. Thanks for listening to State of the Union. If something we said stuck with you, share it. That's how these conversations move beyond the feed. If you want to go deeper, get early access to episodes, discounts on workshops, and find more meaningful ways to connect with other creatives in real life, you can find links to all things Creative Workers Union in the show notes. Got a story about a win, a setback, or a shift you're navigating in your own creative career? Send it to stories@creativeworks.co. We'd love to hear it and maybe share it on a future episode. State of the Union is produced by the Creative Workers Union and edited by Sydney Gladue. Keep showing up, focus on your craft, and remember, you're not alone.